everyone, I'm Iman. In this video, we are going to build Explore Pakistan section for our booking apps UI and UX using React and Tailwind CSS. We are going to wrap it up with a slider and then we will push our code to the GitHub. For Explore section, we have a heading called Explore Pakistan and a paragraph that says Discover Adventures from Mountains to Coastline. For our cards, we have Islamabad, Lahore, Karachi, Quetta, Peshawar and Muzaffarabad with their corresponding location and how many properties there are. For our slider, when we are on the first card, there will not be previous arrow. And when we come to the last card of our slider, there will not be next arrow, and it's completely responsive. On small screens, we will show 2 cards and scroll 2 cards. On medium screens, we will show 3 cards and scroll 1 card. And on large screens, we will show 4 cards and scroll 1 card. And on 2 Excel screens and above, we will show 5 cards and scroll 1 card. For our slider, we will use a package called React Slick, which we had already used for previous sections as well. Now that we understand what we are going to build, let's get started. Inside Components folder, let's create a new file called exploresection.jsx. Let's create a component called Explore Section, arrow function, and return statement. Inside, let's create a div and let's say Explore Section. Let's export default our Explore Section component. Export default Explore Section. Save the file and let's import it inside app.jsx. So after the inclusive section, browse section. Import browse section from /components/browse section. Save it. In here we have router, routes and a separate route for each page, which all we imported from React Router DOM. For our home page, we had shown home, guest card, inclusive section and browse section components inside layout. If we go inside layout component, in here we have the structure children, which are the components that we nested inside layout. The snap bar, hero, search bar and footer are the components that we are going to have in each page. And in here we have rendered our children, which are the components that we nested inside layout. Let's close app.jsx and inside Explore section, let's remove this text and let's create a children div in which we have a heading and a paragraph. H1 called Explore Pakistan. First we will create the structure for our section and then we will style it using Tailwind CSS. And after this we have a paragraph that says Discover Adventures from Mountains to Coastline. And after this children div we have images, location and properties. For data we will use dummy data. Let's go inside data.json. Here I have stored data for Explore section in a variable called explore_pk. We have an array and inside we have multiple objects for each place. for each object we have an ID, location, properties and image URL. After this children div, we will say curly braces to escape into JavaScript because we have to use map method to map through each item. So we will say data that we will export from data.json. So on top of the file we will say import data from data/data/data.json and we will map explore pk, and for each item we will show this div. Of course, because we are using map method, we need to define a key to uniquely identify each item. So in our case it is item.id, that is unique, and inside this div we will have an image, heading and a paragraph. So image element, for source we will say inside curly braces item. So the current item that is mapping, we are displaying its image URL, and when the mapping of the current item will be completed, then the next item will map and we will display its properties. For the alt, we will use template literals because for the alt we need location and also text in here. We will first use $, and then inside curly braces we will fetch item.location, and still inside template literals we will say image text. So for example, when the network is slow, first we will have the item.location, for example Lahore, and then text image. So basically it will say Lahore image. So when our image is not uploaded, this text will be displayed. After this image, we have a heading in which we will have item.location, and after this h2, let's have a paragraph in which we will have item.properties. Let's save it and open up our terminal. Cd booking to go inside booking folder and npm run dev. Oh, seems like we have made some mistake. So if we open app.jsx, in here we say here browse section, it's explore section, not browse section. And let's remove this import and save it. Let's stop our server and say npm run dev. This will start a local server on port localhost 5173. If we control plus click on this link, it will start our app on port localhost 5173. And let's go down. So as you can see, our information is here. Let me introduce you to Retro UI, a retro-styled React UI library designed to help you build modern, unique web applications with ease. Powered by React and Tailwind CSS, Retro UI offers beautifully crafted, flexible components that can be fully customized to match your design needs. Just follow the installation steps, import components that you need, and enhance them further with Tailwind CSS for the perfect look. And if you are looking to elevate your design workflow, Retro UI Pro is where the magic happens. Retro UI Pro offers an incredible set of premium features that take customization to the next level. With premium UI blocks, ready-to-use templates, a Figma UI kit, and lifetime updates, all for a one-time payment of $99. It's a must-have for developers and designers aiming for efficiency and style. Check it out, the link is in the video description. Now let's style our section. Let's remove this extra import. Close this file. Now let's style our component. For this parent div, we will say class name space y5 to give space between the heading div and the card div. empty-10 to give margin of 10 on the top of our section. For this div, we don't need any styles. And for our heading, let's say text 2XL to make the text large by 2XL, font bold to make the text bold, text black to make the color of our heading black, and /90 to reduce its opacity. For our paragraph, text LG to make the text large. Now let's style our card div. Class name width 60 and height 44. This is the width and height of our cards. For the image, width full, height full. If we hover, it's the 100% of width and height that we had given to the parent div. After this, border to give border to the image, border gray 600 to change the color of the border to gray. The bigger the number is, the darker color it will be. So 600, rounded MD to round the corners of the images by medium. Object cover will make the image fit its parent container while maintaining its aspect ratio. Any part of the image that doesn't fit will be clipped rather than resized disproportionately. Cursor pointer to turn the cursor to pointer when hovered on the image. For our heading, font bold to make the text bold, text LG to make the text large, cursor pointer to turn the cursor into pointer when we hover on the location. So our location and properties are not showing properly, but when we will apply slider, it will be perfectly fine. So that's it for styling. Now let's apply slider to the explore section. For slider, we will use React Slick package, which exports a React carousel component. First install the package, but since we had already installed it and used in the previous sections, we don't need to install it. Now first of all, let's import files. Import import slick.css and slick-theme.css. Also, import slider from React-Slick. Like this. Now we will wrap our cards with slider component. So before our map method, slider and let's push our map logic inside slider. Save it. Now let's add some configurations to make it look good. So before the return statement, we will create a variable called settings like this. Let's pass this variable to the slider component. So inside curly braces, settings. What this means is maintain the other default configurations since we are not configuring every property React Slick gives us, and apply the ones we are changing. Let's save. And if you want dots like this, we can say dots to true like this, but in this section I don't think it's necessary. Infinite to false. So when we come to the last card, we don't want to start from the first card again. Speed, in which speed we want to scroll to the next card. Let's say 500. Slides to show, how many slides we want to show, and slides to scroll, how many slides we want to scroll at a time. Let's save. So as you can see, our cards are here. Now we want our cards to be responsive. It's all explained in the React Slick documentation. If you want to explore more, you can check out the documentation. So on small screens, we want to show 2 cards, on medium 3 cards, on large 4 cards, and on extra larger and so on. We will show 5 cards at a time. So after this, we will say responsive. Add an array, and inside we will have different objects for each breakpoint. I will explain in a bit. Let's save. It's responsive. If you don't have gap between the cards, so let's go inside index.css. We did this in one of the previous video while creating slider for guest section. So margin on y-axis will be 0 and x-axis the margin will be 10 pixels. So this class will be applied to this div containing the cards. Now if you save, the gap between the cards will be there, and if we refresh, our changes will be made. Now let me explain the breakpoints. If we right click and click on inspect and click on this icon until we reach the breakpoint of 650, two cards will be shown, and if we scroll, 2 cards will scroll, and from 650 to until we reach breakpoint of 1000, 3 slides will be shown and 1 will scroll. If we scroll, 1 card will scroll, and from 1000 to less than 1099, so 1098, if we refresh, 4 cards will be shown and 1 will scroll, and after that whatever breakpoint will be, this default of 5 cards to show and 1 to scroll will be applied. Let's go to 1376. As you can see, our cards are completely responsive. Let's move this section above the all-inclusive section. what we can do is simply go inside app.jsx in here, and let's move our explore section above inclusive section. Let's save it. So as you can see, our explore section will move above all inclusive. Now our arrows are not showing, but when we try to hover on the sides of the carousel, our cursor turns into pointer. So the arrows are actually there, but because of its styling, it's not visible. In one of the previous videos, I had shown you two different ways to display the arrows. The first one is by using probes and inline styling, and the second one is creating our custom arrow and styling it using Tailwind CSS. You can check it out if you want to know both ways, but now we will use the second way and create our custom arrow. So before the explore section component, we will create a new function called next arrow. It will take probes as an argument, and we destructure the onClick from the probes. The click handlers preserve the functionality of navigating through the carousel. We will only use the onClick probe, since for styling we will use our custom one. So after this, we will have a return statement, and inside this div we will have our icon. To use React icons, open the terminal and install the package by command npm install react icon, and after that you will be able to use React icons. So inside this div we will have an icon called, its spelling is quite large, iOS arrow drop right circle, and we have to import it from React icons. Let's copy it, and after the slider import, inside curly braces we paste the name, and from React icons /io, like this. Let's save it. It's icons. Now after this slides to scroll, we will say next arrow to our next arrow. Our configuration using next arrow to our next arrow function tells the slider component to use this custom arrow instead of its default one. So our arrow is here. Now let's style it. Class name absolute, to apply absolute positioning to our arrow. This means the element is removed from the normal document flow and positioned relative to its nearest positioned ancestor. After this, write inside square braces -16 pixels to move the arrow on the opposite direction, like this, and top 40%. So it will move to the top by 40%. Let's make it a bit big, size 30, like this, and after this, cursor pointer. So when we hover on it, our cursor will turn into pointer. Text black. To make the color of our arrow black, and when we hover on it, we will turn its color to gray 700. So if we hover, the color of the arrow will turn into gray 700. Now if we try to click on it, our functionality will not work because we haven't used onClick probe. So after this class name, we will say onClick to our onClick probe. Let's save it and let's check. As you can see, Our next arrow is working perfectly fine. Now let's copy it and rename it for previous arrow. It will take in same props, and instead of right we will say left. For our class we will say left, and inside the settings variable we will say previous arrow to our previous arrow function. We have forgot to import it, so let's copy it, paste and rename it to left. Save it. So both of our arrows are here. Let's check its functionality. Islamabad, Lahore, Karachi, Quetta, Peshawar and Muzaffarabad. There are many more properties. If you want to, you can explore it in React Slick and configure them according to your needs. Now for our functionality, we want to hide the previous arrow when we are on the first slide, and we want to hide the next arrow when we are on the last slide. So inside previous arrow, after the on click, let's destructure a prop called current slide. Current slide is the index of the currently visible slide at the most left. The index starts at 0. After this return statement, we will have fragments because we need to define a JavaScript statement, and inside the return statement there have to be only one parent element. That's why fragment is necessary. So let's move our div inside this fragment and inside curly braces, because we are escaping into JavaScript. Current slide, as I told you, it's the index of the currently visible slide at the most left, which is equal to 0. So in this statement we will check if the current slide is not equal to 0 and then we will show this div that basically contains a previous arrow. Okay, so if we save, as you can see, when we are on the first slide, our previous arrow is not visible. And if we move to the next, since it's not the first slide, our previous arrow will be displayed. Now for our next arrow, we will destructure 3 props. Slide count, current slide, and inside next arrow, in here what we can do is pass slides to show. And we will destructure it in here, slides to show, like this. So slide count is the total number of slides in the carousel. Current slide is the index of the currently visible slide at the most left, and slides to show how many slides are visible at once, and it depends on the screen size. Inside return statement we will have fragments. Let's move our div inside it. Like this, and inside curly braces. I will explain the logic in a bit. Current slide is less than slide count minus slides to show, and we will show this div. It's slide to show, not slides. Now before the next arrow function, create a variable called slides to show and set its value to 5. We are defining this value because we need it inside next arrow function. But if we go to our responsive array, in here we will have slides to show value only if the breakpoint changes. So for the first time we don't have slides to show value. That's why we are creating a variable and setting its value to 5, so that we will have a value to work with for the first time. And when the breakpoint changes, we will have our slides to show that our slick package handles. Let's change its value in here. What this statement means is the next arrow will be visible only if this statement is true. If it's false, the next arrow will disappear. Let's save. Let me explain it. So this is our logic. First we will have current slide. What is current slide? It's the index of the currently visible slide at the most left. Its index starts at 0, which is this one card. Okay, the first one. So its value is 0. Next we will have less than operator, slide count, which is the total number of slides in the carousel. So we have 6 number of slide, 6 minus slides to show. How many slides are visible at once? It completely depends on the screen. So on the small screen we will show 2 slides, on medium 3 slides, on large 4 slides, and on extra large and so on we will show 5 slides. So right now it's the small screen and we are currently showing 2 slides. So in here we will say 2. So 6 minus 2 is equal to 4, right? So what is 6 minus 2? It is equal to 4. So we will check, is 0 less than 4? Yes, it is true, so our slide will be visible. So its index is 0, its index is 1, and if we scroll, its index is 2. So now we have current slide. It's the index of the currently visible item, which is 2. 2 is less than, slide count is total number of slides in the carousel, which is 6, minus slides to show. How many slides are visible at once, which is 2. 6 minus 2 is equal to 4. So we will check, is 2 less than 4? Yes, it's true. So our next arrow will be visible. So its index is 2, it is 3. The next slide at the most left, its index will be 4. So 4, which is current slide, is less than slide count, which is total number of slides, which is 6, minus slides to show, which is how many slides are visible at once, which is 2. So we will check, 4 is less than, 6 minus 2 is equal to 4. 4 is less than 4, it is false because 4 is equal to 4. So right now our statement is false. We will only show the next arrow if the statement is true. But as you can see, we are not on the last slide, but our next arrow is not visible. So we have a problem. Our next arrow is not visible and quota is not the last card. We will only remove the next arrow when we are on the last card. We are having a problem because in here we are defining a variable where we are defining static value because we need it inside next arrow and we are the arrow based on that. But inside our responsive breakpoint, we are providing slides to show based on the dynamic breakpoints. So our values are clashing. What we can do is change slides to show and slides to scroll based on the width of the screen. So inside Explore section, I will explain the code in a bit. This block of code dynamically adjusts how many slides are shown in the carousel based on the current screen width. Here's how it works. This sets up a React state variable called width initialized to the current window width. It helps the component know how wide the screen is at any given time. This is a side effect that runs once because of the empty dependency array. Listens for any window resize, calls update width each time it happens. This function is triggered by the resize event. It updates the width state, which can trigger a re-render so the layout stays responsive. Cleans up the event listener when the component unmounts. It's very important for performance. Based on the current window width, this code decides the number of carousel slides to display. Small screens on phones 2 slides, medium on tablets 3, large on small laptops 4, larger on desktops 5. Now we are already determining slides to show based on screen width. So bundling slides to scroll with it keeps all breakpoint logic in one place. Let's do that. And also define a variable called slides to scroll and set its value to 1. Okay, and inside settings variable, in here slides to show is equal to slides to show variable that we define above. So slides to show is equal to slides to show, but since the property and value is the same, we can define it only once. Same for the slides to scroll. Now since we had defined all our breakpoint logic in here, we don't need it down here. So let's just remove it. Otherwise we'll be managing 2 separate conditionals, which can get messy fast. So this is our slick config now. We are passing slides to show and slides to scroll directly from our computed values. Since we have detached the responsive array in favor of full manual control. Now let's check if our logic is working fine. So if we save and refresh it, our previous arrow is not showing when we are on the first card, and our last arrow will be removed when we are on the last card. Let's check on the other screens as well. It's working perfectly fine on all screens. Now for the homework, console.log width state and observe it on console while resizing the window. So that's it for the code. Now let's push our code to the GitHub. So if we go to the source control, in here first of all stage all changes. Then we will write a message creating the Explore Pakistan section. Creating the Explore Pakistan section. Then click on commit and push. Make sure you configure your user.name and user.email in the Git. So let's open git log. So let's copy it and go to our terminal. In here, let's stop the server, Ctrl C and paste in here and define your user and email and click enter, and now let's commit. And then we have to sync our changes, push fun commits to origin master. So let's click on it. This action will pull and push commits from and to origin/master. Okay. If you are not signed in to GitHub, make sure to sign in. Now if we hover on it, this is our latest commit, creating the explore section. Let's go to our GitHub. As you can see, our latest commit is here. If we go in here, so this is our code. So that's it for today's video. If you have any questions, ask me in the comment section. I will make sure to answer them. If you like this video, click on the like button, comment, share and subscribe to UI Universe. Until next time, take care. Bye bye.